back, everyone. We're here again with another episode of Rediscovering God, and I'm joined with my friend Rabbi Stuart Federow.
How you doing?
All right, Rabbi. Today we're going to talk about a verse in Psalms that gets utilized all the time incorrectly, stated as a prophecy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But the entire psalm is something that we have to look at. Okay. But even before we get to the psalm, we need to discuss Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 and following. Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 and following. It's the story of the entry of Jesus into Jerusalem the first time he goes there. Okay?
Yep.
All right. Because we're going to see the same story played out in the Gospel of Mark, and we're especially looking at one major difference between the two. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Matthew chapter 21, verses 1 and following. And when they drew nigh unto Jerusalem, and were come to Bethpage, unto the Mount of Olives, then sent Jesus 2 disciples, saying to them, Go into the village over against you, and straightway you shall find an ass tied and a colt with her. Loosen them and bring them unto me. And if any man say aught to you, you shall say, The Lord hath need of them, and straightway he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, quote, Tell you the daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes to you, meek and sitting upon an ass, and a colt the foal of an ass. And the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them, and brought the ass and the colt, and put on them their clothes, and they set him, meaning Jesus, on it. And a very great multitude spread their garments in the way, others cut down branches, and then whatever. Okay? But the story is clear. Jesus comes into Jerusalem. He tells his disciples that go to the village near you, and you will find 2 animals, an ass tied and a colt with her. And he says, bring them back to me. And it explicitly says that this was done in order to fulfill what was prophesied by a prophet who said, quote, Say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes to you, meek and sitting upon an ass, and a colt, the foal of an ass. Now, let's take a look at the Gospel of Mark. I believe it's 11.
Okay.
Mark chapter 11, verses 1 and following. And when they came nigh unto Jerusalem, unto Bethpage and Bethany, at the Mount of Olives, he sendeth forth 2 of his disciples. He said to them, Go your way into the village over against you, and as soon as you be entered into it, you shall find a colt tied, whereon never man sat. Loosen it and bring it. And if any man says unto you, Why do you do this? Say you that the Lord have need of him or it, and straightway he will send it hither. And they went their way and found the colt tied by the door without in a place where 2 ways met, and they loosened him or it. And certain of them that stood there said to them, What do you, loosening the colt? And they said to them, even as Jesus had commanded, and they let them go. And they brought the colt to Jesus and cast their garments on him, not them, and he sat upon it. And many spread their garments in the way, and others cut down branches, and it goes on from there. Same basic story, one huge difference. Matthew and Mark write about the same incident, but Matthew talks about 2 animals that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on, and Mark writes about only 1 animal that Jesus rode on to go into Jerusalem. But Matthew makes it sound like the reason why Jesus is going to be balancing between 2 animals is because he is specifically fulfilling a prophecy of a prophet. Now, if Matthew's understanding of the prophet is accurate, in order to fulfill the prophecy, you have to come into Jerusalem on two animals. According to Mark, Jesus did not fulfill that prophecy. Because Mark only describes it as one animal. But
Right.
Matthew says two, that it may be fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet. Okay, so now you got to ask, what prophet? You have to go to Zechariah chapter 9.
Okay.
Okay. And Zechariah chapter 9, verse 9 and 10. Zechariah chapter 9, verses 9 and 10. Matthew quotes this. He says, this was done in order to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet, saying, quote, rejoice greatly, this is Zechariah 9:9, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout, O daughter of Jerusalem, behold, your king comes to you, he is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. Was Zechariah talking about two animals, or was he talking about one animal?
One.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Yes, well, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. But the point is that what determines the story? What determines the story isn't the facts of history. How did Jesus go into Jerusalem? What determines the story is that Matthew understands Zechariah 9:9 to be talking about two animals, so he invents his story talking about two animals. Mark understands Zechariah 9:9 to be talking about one animal, so he invents his version of the story talking about one animal.
Mm-hmm.
History does not determine the New Testament. Inventing stories about Jesus to make it look like he fulfilled prophecy is what determines what is found in the New Testament.
Right.
Okay. Parenthetically, just so you'll understand this, okay, let's see, pick one. Psalm 115, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's back up. Let's go to 12. Okay. Oh, wait, I don't know. Maybe we should do this one that everybody will recognize. I'm trying to find one that everybody knows. Here, wait. Okay. Okay. How about Psalm 19? Should have remembered. Okay. How about Psalm 19?
Okay.
Okay. That'll be the one. Okay. So Psalm 19, verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. It's called parallelism.
Mm-hmm.
Law of the Lord is perfect, is parallel to testimony of the Lord is sure. Converting the soul or reviving the soul is parallel to making wise the simple.
Right.
Law of the Lord, testimony of the Lord is
Mm-hmm.
perfect, is sure. Converting the soul, making wise the simple.
Mm-hmm.
Or verse 8, the statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. Statutes of the Lord are right is parallel to commandments of the Lord is pure. Rejoicing the heart is parallel to enlightening the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is that Zechariah, okay, in chapter 9, verse 9, is also using the same kind of poetry. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Rejoice greatly is a parallel to shout. O daughter of Zion, is parallel to Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on an ass, and upon a colt the foal of an ass. Hebrew poetry is a rhyming of idea, not a rhyming of sound. So that it's parallelism. So when it says riding upon an ass, on a colt the foal of an ass, it's parallelism for the same singular one animal.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew doesn't get that. He invents a story about two animals. Mark understands it. He writes a story about one animal.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you understand, now that anybody watching this understands that the purpose and function of the New Testament is to make Jesus look like the Jewish Messiah, so they invent stories, but it's not based on history, it's not based on fact, it's based on their interpretation of what they're trying to model the stories about Jesus on.
Right.
Okay? You can't build a building unless an architect makes the plans to tell the construction company how to do it. The authors of the New Testament are the construction company, and the various passages in the Hebrew scriptures become the architect's blueprints. Okay, now, having shown that pretty well, I think, now we go to Psalm 22. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Psalm 22, and you wanted to center into which one?
16.
Right. Okay, yeah. 16. For dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and my feet. Let's just take the one verse exactly as they mistranslated. And yes, it's a mistranslation. Let's pretend it's not a mistranslation, even though it is a mistranslation. Okay? Exactly who is it that is piercing my hands and my feet?
His enemies, David's enemies, his pursuers, dogs.
Dogs!
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He is making an analogy that the dogs are like the wicked who have enclosed him in,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the dogs, by their biting at him, that pierce his hands and feet. Okay? Does it say anything in here about a soldier of Rome?
Nope.
Does it say anything in here about a crucifixion?
Nope.
Does it say anything in here about nails?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so even if you did translate it the way they mistranslate it, what it's saying is that dogs have gotten around me, okay? The assembly of the wicked are like those dogs, and the dogs pierced my hands and my feet because they snap at him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's not talking about Roman crucifixion. It's not even talking about a Roman soldier. Okay? Oh, but you don't understand, Rabbi. This is about all the enemies that, this person described here has. Well, first of all, it's a Psalm of David.
Right.
Okay? And again, we remind ourselves that a Psalm of David, okay, Mizmor LeDavid. LeDavid can mean for David, to David, or David owns it, of David. Okay, a psalm to David means somebody else wrote it and dedicated it to David. A psalm for David means somebody else wrote it and, dedicated it to David. Okay, but a psalm of David, possession, means David actually wrote it. So
Right.
2 out of 3, making the odds pretty much against, but 2 out of 3, David didn't write this. Okay, so whoever wrote it is writing it as if he were David or for David.
Real quick, I don't want to cut you off.
That's okay.
But in this psalm, it says Mizmor LeDavid.
Right.
The last show we did where we talked about a psalm, it said LeDavid Mizmor. Is there any
No.
No?
Okay. Steve walked into the store. Walked Steve into the store. So
I just didn't know if it would make more sense. For example, like if the psalm is attributed to David, a psalm, and if it's of David himself, a psalm of David,
No.
Okay.
because you get either way you work it, you get the same problem with how do you translate the lamed, the le of le David,
Right.
to David, for David, of David. Okay, so they're saying as if King David, okay, was surrounded by his enemies, snapping at his hands and his feet,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or biting at his hands and his feet. Soldiers don't bite. Okay, but be that as it may, okay. Look, the word is like a lion.
Right.
Okay, ka'ari. Okay, and if you could bring that up on your and show them what it looks like, what the letters look like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see. Ka'ari. Yes. Okay. Interesting that Strong's, okay, takes the word ka'ari and says it's kara, in which case, why is there an aleph there? Obviously, they're ignoring the Hebrew, ignoring the grammar.
They'd be ignoring the yud too, right?
Yes. Okay. I wish that we had access to it, but there's an interesting parchment. I think it's a parchment that they found in Israel that has this psalm there. Okay. And they point out that the yud isn't a yud. It's written very long, and it's actually a nun. Okay. And they'll say, oh, see, pierce, cut, whatever. Okay. The problem with it is that if you take a look on the same piece of paper, the same thing that they found, and look at other yuds, they also look like a nun. They're also written long. Okay. But that's another issue, and we don't have it, so we really can't talk about it that much.
Just a cross reference. If you go to Genesis 49:9, the exact same word is there describing Judah.
Yep. Yep. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Unfortunately, what they could say for 49:9, okay, is that it's not exactly the same word. It's ka'arye. Okay. The problem is that your example of Genesis 49, okay, is slightly different. They'll say, well, it's different. Okay. But the word ka'ari is found in a number of places.
What exactly? I mean, I understand there's the hay on the end, but what exactly makes it different? Like, what about
the hay on the
about
end? They will say that it's the hay on the end. Okay. So let's see. Wait a minute. I can't. Wait a minute. There we go. Okay, so Numbers chapter 24:9. Numbers chapter 24:9. Let's see. Numbers chapter 24:9. He lay down like a lion. Ka'ari. Exactly the same 4 letters, exactly as found in Psalm 22, verse 16, or 7, whichever one you want to go by. Okay, Hebrew Bible or Hebrew way of counting the verses or Christian way. Okay, it's exactly the same word. Ka'ari. Numbers chapter 24, 9. Okay. Third word in the line. So even if you can't read Hebrew, you can compare what you see with your own eyes, and you'll see that it's exactly the same. Okay. So, what? Okay. So how about, let's see, Psalm, oh, that's the one we're doing. How about Isaiah 38:13?
Okay.
Isaiah 38:13. Where'd it go? Isaiah 38 and 13.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Like a lion, we're breaking all my bones.
Like a lion. Okay. Isaiah 38:13. Exactly the same 3 letters. Okay. Ka'ari. 4 letters.
So in Genesis 49:9, what does that hay on the end?
1, 2, 3. The fourth word in Isaiah 38:13. Ka'ari. Same Kaf Aleph Resh Yud. Okay. Right. And how does the same translation translate it here? Using the King James? As a lion, like a lion. So why all of a sudden do they mistranslate it as pierced?
Right.
Okay. Because it, again, suits their purposes of making it look like Jesus fulfilled Scripture.
Exactly.
Yes. So, D, none of the above.
Yeah. But just for clarification, what did that hay on the end of Ka'aryeh versus Ka'ari?
Well, listen to what you're saying. Aryeh is how you say the word lion.
Okay.
Okay. Ka'ari is a truncated version.
Got it.
Really, it's like I can't think of an example in English, but it's just with the hay on the end is how it's pronounced. Fully lion. Okay. Ka'ari is the same thing. It's like Stephen versus Steve.
Got it.
Okay. It's like, and the point is it's found throughout the Bible, exactly as you find it in Psalm 22, that verse, but they only seem to want to make it pierced when they find it in Psalm 22. Again, never forget this. Psalm 22 becomes the blueprints where the construction company, meaning those who invent the New Testament, are going to model their stories on. So let's say, 22, okay, and then anything in there that they can say, creates the image that they're trying to produce in the story they're inventing about Jesus, helps them. They're going to do it that way, even if it means mistranslation. Believe me, it's not the only time they mistranslate something in order to make it look like Jesus fulfilled a verse.
Right.
So let's see, where are we? Psalm 22. Okay. By the way, if got nothing else to do, throw up Psalm 22, verse 6.
Okay.
And how does your translation read?
To you they cried out, and they escaped. In you they trusted, and they were not disappointed.
Psalm 22, 6 or 7?
Oh, you wanted 7 too?
No, just 6.
That was 6. Or did you want the one saying about a worm?
The one about a worm.
Okay, that's 7.
That's what I said. You're right. Okay.
But I am a worm, less than human, scorned by men, despised by people.
Well, gee, I thought Jesus was God, man and God. Here he's worm and man.
Right.
Okay. No, wait a minute.
I thought Jesus was above the angels. Here he's less than a human.
Here, Okay, and by the way, let's see what the actual Hebrew. Okay, huh. It even says Tala'at worm velo ish and not a man. Okay, gee, I thought he was the son of man.
Right.
But okay, going back to this, the author of a psalm calls himself a worm. I thought that every time anybody writes anything about themselves in a psalm, that it's true for every one of us. So that means we're not really human. We're all worms. You know, I knew you in the womb, therefore God knows everybody in the womb, because the author of a psalm happens to write that. Well, the author of a psalm also wrote, but I am a worm and not a man. I'm a reproach of men and despised of the people. Okay. Well, yeah, when everybody's looking out for David because Saul is trying to get him killed, everybody is trying to kill him. But Jesus, all the way to the crucifixion, has a multitude of people following him. So why they pick and choose what they want to apply to their God. They pick and choose what are the Hebrew scriptures. They'll rip us one verse out of context. Pierced. Oh, it says pierced. Jesus was pierced. Well, no, actually, he was, stabbed. So, but whatever. Okay. They'll say, oh, the nails pierced him. Okay, well, the word nail doesn't even appear in the psalm, but we said that already. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yep.
So I do have if you're up for it, some people have been asking questions.
About what? Sure.
Yeah, it's not like we are doing a call-in, but if you don't mind answering some questions, that's fine. Let me see here.
We can do call-ins too someday.
Yeah, I'd be down for that, for sure.
Yep.
All right.
Let's take one and see how much time we have, because I'm kind of running out of time.
Okay. Yeah, let's take this one question.
Not too complicated, can it? No, just go ahead.
All right, my friend Dan,
Hi, Dan.
He wants to know what exactly the spiritual and real life consequences are of idolatry, in particular when it comes to worshiping, as he puts it, you know who.
Look, my God is not so petty and small that my God will only answer prayers prayed to the right God, prayers prayed for the person with the right faith, prayers prayed for the person who has the right name of God. Okay, my God is not that petty and small. My God answers the prayers even of Buddhists, even of Hindus, even of Jainists, even of Sikhs, even of Baptists, even of Catholics. Even my God is not so petty and small that you have to have the right religion, pray in the right name to the right God. My God answers the prayers of all people, okay? Because my God is truly compassionate, merciful, forgiving, and generous.
Right.
Okay. But look, people can live, have a great life, find meaning in their lives, be moral, ethical people, even if they're Greek pagans who worship Zeus. Okay? But don't you want to worship the one true God described explicitly in the text that we know comes from God?
Right.
Okay? Is it going to... I'm a very practical person. I'm a very big realist. Okay? You can be born in the middle of India, okay, and still have a great life and laugh and have things to laugh at and people to laugh with and enjoy your life. God is that generous. But don't you want to have a connection to the one true God who is indivisible, a concept on earth that is unique to all other deities? Don't you want to have a relationship with the God who explicitly tells us, right, I don't know, thou shalt not murder? Don't you? I mean, to me,
maybe a better way to phrase the question would be, what would the ramification be if someone believes in God but also worships Jesus?
Well, they're committing idolatry because they're worshiping a human as if the human is God. If you're looking for me to say, oh, well, God will condemn them, I'm sorry, I don't believe that, nor do I believe that Judaism believes that.
Mm-hmm.
The people that God called to be believers in God are the Jews.
Right.
The descendants of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah and Rachel, the children of the concubines of Jacob, okay, the 12 tribes, and all those people who converted to the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as it developed and evolved over the past 4,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the people that God chose. God does not command, except for the 7 categories of laws of Noah. Okay, God does not command anybody else to do anything.
Right.
Okay, and God spoke to Moses and said, speak to the children of Israel and command them whatever.
Right.
Okay, the Bible is about the relationship between God and God's chosen people, who are the Jewish people.
Exactly.
And we're chosen for jobs to do in the world, to be a light to the nations, telling the rest of the world that God exists and that God demands moral and ethical behavior from all of God's creation.
Mm-hmm.
It's to create relationships between creatures, including human beings, and God, and creatures and other creatures. How we treat each other, how we treat the animals, how we treat the earth. Okay, this is what the Bible is really about.
Right.
Okay, if people want to join us, convert to Judaism. Give yourself a full relationship with God. I'm not saying it's a better relationship. I think personally that you would be better off, not a better person, but better off by converting to Judaism and having a very direct relationship with God, who is the one who created the universe and created them. Okay, I think that, and I think it's true of all religion, that there are benefits and effects that it has on a person who follows religion that are much more beneficial to them personally when they do their religion, especially when they do Judaism, that they're not going to get elsewhere.
Right.
Okay, and that's a whole lecture on its own. Okay, but I'm not, Steve, take a look at Deuteronomy, I think it's 4. Let's see. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 15 and following.
Okay.
Deuteronomy, the Jews are about to go into the promised land. They've been rubbing elbows, so to speak, only with each other, only with their fellow co-religionists, their fellow ex-Hebrew slaves or descendants of ex-Hebrew slaves, and all the people who joined them, and became part of them by being part of their religion. Okay. And God is saying, don't become like the people whose land you're invading, whose land you're coming into, that I've given you their land. Now it's time for them to pay for their sins. Explicitly says that, by the way. Take you therefore good heed to yourselves, that you saw no manner of form on the day that the Eternal spoke to you in Horeb, that's another name for Sinai, out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make for yourselves a graven image, the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that's on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flies in the air, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And listen to this, verse 19. And lest you lift up your eyes into the heavens, and when you see the sun and the moon and the stars and the hosts of heaven, you should be driven to worship them and serve them, which the eternal your God gave to the nations under the whole heaven. They can have it. I gave it to them, God says. Not you. You're Jews. You've got me, and you don't need astrology. You don't need the signs and whatever of the planets and the whatever. You don't need that. You've got me. They can have it. I gave it to them, not you.
Wow.
Okay. Does Judaism say that only the righteous of the Jewish people will go to heaven. To the contrary, the righteous of all nations shall inherit the kingdom of God. The righteous of all nations shall have a Olam Haba, the heaven. Okay? So they can have it, but just leave us alone so that we can be with and just leave us alone. Okay? It's a very unusual approach on earth, especially with the other Western religions. Actually, I don't even think Islam says you've got to be a Muslim to go to heaven. Christianity sure does and sure did. And there are liberal movements of Christianity that no longer believe that, by the way. But they're liberal Christians.
I know in Muslim eschatology, they believe at the end, obviously everyone will be Muslim, but I don't know how it is in like modern,
right,
like
until then.
practicum. You know what I mean? I don't know how.
Right, exactly. So if he's expecting me to say God condemns them because they're believing in a dying, saving man God, okay, if Jews do it, they get condemnation from God because we're not supposed to be involved with idolatry. Right. But if Gentiles, I would like to see them not only leave their Christianity, but I'd like to see them join Judaism and become Jews.
Right.
Okay, I think it provides a very meaningful relationship. I think with God and with God's creation. I think that it's a very practical, practicable, able to be practiced religion that is both rational and reasonable. Okay, that makes
definitely
sense.
Don't listen to Paul on that one.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. How can you call a law a curse?
Or say it's too hard that
is it a curse that you go 20 miles an hour in a school zone? Well, I want to be able to go as fast as I want. Really? Okay. How's that for the children?
Right.
Okay. How does it? The law comes to give us guidelines.
Right. Now, don't tell them your whole book now, Rabbi.
Right. But the point is that it makes our lives better by having laws. Do you really want to live in a town, a city, a village, a city, a country where they have no driving laws, no traffic lights, no stop signs, no yield signs, no speed limit? You really want to live in a city like that?
Exactly.
You think it'd be safer?
Lawlessness.
Right. So, whatever.
Someone on Facebook had mentioned about, Jesus fulfilled the law. And I simply just retorted and said, okay, well, then I'm going to come steal your wallet and Jesus will take care of it for you.
Right.
Because that's really what it sounds like. It promotes lawlessness.
Steve, if you're behind another car and you come up to a stop sign and the car in front of you obeys perfectly, the laws of stopping at a stop sign, does that mean nobody ever has to stop at a stop sign again?
Right.
And where do they get this idea that if the law is fulfilled perfectly, it's no longer in effect? Okay?
Yeah, I don't really understand.
If I obey the law perfectly of how fast I go, that means after I obey the law, nobody ever has to obey the law of speeding again. Come on.
Doesn't make sense.
It never made sense. Judaism is to be a rational, practical, practicable, reasonable religion. It doesn't demand you to give up your mind.
Right.
Okay.
Well, all right, my friend. Touched on a little bit. Some good topics. In conclusion, if you'd like to show your books, everyone, since you already gave a little bit of a preface.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But as far as your books go, what you were getting into about, a speed limit, that's really how the whole book contrasts and equates Christianity and Judaism. It's very simple to understand. And
right. This is the English one. Okay. Judaism and Christianity, a contrast. This is the translation into Spanish. Judaísmo y Cristianismo, un contraste. I can't pronounce Spanish, but at any rate, okay, these are the two books.
Can I call you Rabino from now on?
Yeah. Spanish. Yep. Rabino. All right.
All right, my friend.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and until next time.
Questions. Give us an idea of what to talk about.
Yeah. Everyone, comment on this video. Drop some questions for the rabbi, and we can move forward with some different topics for you guys. All right.
Absolutely.
But all right, Rabbi. Thank you.
All right. My pleasure.
We'll see you guys all next time.
Absolutely.